2021, and we are in a political year. This is For the Record. I'm Jeremy Maggs, and a very warm welcome. The party ActionSA has 3 candidates vying for the mayorship of Johannesburg, the big Johannesburg metro. The trio is Herman Mashaba, Machaba, and Suraya Holt. Let's hear what they have to say. To our 3 mayoral candidates, a very warm welcome to you. And Herman Mashaba, as leader of ActionSA, I am going to start with you. Your party is running a series of primary elections, so to speak, for the mayoral candidates. It's a first in South African politics. Before we get to talk about the 3 of you and the strengths that you bring to the process, why have you embarked on this route?
I think thank you very much, Jeremy, and I think thank you very much to people of South Africa, particularly the 2.4 million South Africans who gave us the mandate to start this political party, because one of the core values of what we agreed upon as a group to start ActionSA was a core value of electoral reform. The reason why 18.3 million South Africans stayed away from voting the last time is because they did not have an alternative. They felt that politicians impose leaderships, public representatives on them. And we gave the commitment that as part of the formation of our political party, our public representatives are going to be elected by the communities, by residents in each ward, in every community, so that they are not accountable to political parties, they are accountable to society.
And very quickly, this process will be monitored very closely and evaluated as such.
Absolutely, and one of the commitments that we've made is that for this process to really be equitable, free and fair, we have to really use an independent electoral monitoring company.
Suraya Holt, how did you feel about the process when you were told that you were going to participate in a primary?
Yes, thank you, Jeremy. I think that it is important for us to make the change. And I really am happy that this is happening, simply because, you know, this cronyism and type of thing can be done away with. And that is what we've been wanting as people, and I'm sure communities also want that. And I think the country needs that.
And Machaba, you're the youngest of the group, the young man in the process. No doubt your first primary that you're fighting or contesting.
Ever. First primary ever contesting. I'm actually feeling very blessed and lucky to be here with such great other candidates that are also going to be standing with us. But I actually did agree with the process of electoral reform. In fact, I was following the People's Dialogue process very closely, and it led to me actually joining ActionSA. And as young people, we are also just tired of this political system that has completely failed us in South Africa for the past 27 years. So we welcomed this electoral reform process, which led to the primary elections.
All right, as they say, let's start the engines and drop the flag. And Lincoln, I'm going to come straight to you. Who is the person behind the politician? What do we need to know about you?
Well, my name is obviously Lincoln, as you've said, born in Guyana in 1991. So I'm 30 this year. Still young, but about to get old. But I'm not from Guyana. I was just born there. My mother.
You're not even close to old.
So born in Guyana, but I'm actually from Bushbuck Ridge. But my older brother, whose name is Machaba, someone that I actually look up to, wrote a letter back in 1999 to a show called Yo TV. I don't know if you remember that show. He wrote that letter to say that he thinks he can present that show, and they sent a camera crew to come to Bushbuck Ridge to come audition him, and he actually got the role. So then the family decided from that point onwards that we may need to move to the city of Johannesburg for better life opportunities. And that's what we've did since then. I managed to, go to school, high school, and then go study at Wits, studied my law degree, and then had the opportunity to also be a councillor in the city of Johannesburg before I decided to join ActionSA. So that's just me.
All right, Lincoln, thank you very much for the background. Let's bring in Suraya Holt now. Suraya, welcome to you again. So the person behind the politician, tell us who you are, a little bit of background.
Yes, thank you, Jeremy. I'm a township girl. Originally from Everton, then Eldorado Park, and now in Annandale. The reason why I like the townships is because I think that, a lot of the people have been neglected. So, I've been trying to make a difference. I've been in politics before as a councillor at a local municipality as well as district. And yes, I served on many portfolios. I come with a lot of experience, and I know that I will definitely, do a lot for the party.
I'm hearing politics and service are almost a calling for you.
Yes, it is, definitely. My mother was one of those people with an orphanage and brought up over 365 children, so it makes me a bit emotional. And yes, we've been brought up to care, to love and care and to give. And that is what I've been doing all my life. And that's the reason why I stay in the township, because I find that the need is greater there. And yes, I love it. I love the people and I love politics. And I think with us going the route we're taking now with our system, primary, where people choose the person to represent them, will make all the difference, because, you're choosing somebody that you know will do something for you.
It's a powerful story. Herman Mashaba, you also have a powerful story. We've read the books, we know the business person, we know the politician. Just recap for us again. What do we need to know about you, the man?
Well, Herman Mashaba is a 61-year-old South African who's supposed to be on SASSA grant. Unfortunately, I've not had an opportunity to apply as yet. A father of two, married for over 39 years. I cannot just believe it. The other day I was a 21-year-old young man. So I'm a senior citizen of this country. The last job I held was mayor of the city of Johannesburg for 3 years, running a complex multi-party government committed to really saving my country. And what a privilege, but what a tough job. I can tell you, every time going to work for me was like actually going to war. But at the same time, you come back in the evening with some of the achievements, with some of the encounters, you feel rewarded.
Let me say this to you, Lincoln, and to you, Herman. 30 is not old. 61 is not old either. I'm more on your side than I am on your side. Now let's move on to the reason why and what makes you think you will be the best person for the job. What made you come and want to sit here, first of all, Lincoln, and then, again, why are you best suited for this?
Well, I think just as young people, I'm sitting here representing young people. And young people are saying that it is time for us really to just give young people an opportunity to lead. Our country hasn't really been kind to young people. I mean, we're sitting on a almost 70% youth unemployment rate, and all those challenges don't come just merely because of us. In fact, maybe they do because we're not standing up and doing something about it. And through just my colleagues that I've grew up with, colleagues that I work with, have always seen me as a leader. They've always seen me as someone that can be better than what I think I can become. So a lot of people approached me and said, Lincoln, why don't you actually stand up? The party has created a platform for you to stand up and become, the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. We think you're the right person to do it. Why don't you try do it? And I think, for me, I'm ready to do it, with the support of others. And yeah, that's where we are right now.
That's part one of the question. Part two is, what makes you think you are the best person for the job?
Well, I'm vibrant, I'm open-minded, I'm futuristic thinking, because we need to change the city. The city of Joburg is called now the World African Class City, but we really need to make it a world-class city. Right now, I think it's actually a slum that we need to change and not just make it a slogan right now. So I think I'm that person that will be taking world-class standards and bringing them into Joburg through young ideas and innovation that's happening in other parts of the world, but making them relevant in the Joburg context.
Suraya Holt, the same question to you as we discuss this primary race for the mayorship of Johannesburg. What was your pivot point? Why did you decide to come and sit on that chair? And again, what makes you the best person for the job?
Yes, thank you, Jeremy. I think I'm the best person for the job simply because I understand people, mostly women and children, including the youth. I've been very, very involved with women and children. I've been very, very involved with communities at large, older people as well. And I think that it's time that we stop neglecting women out there and the children out there, because they are the future leaders. The children are the future leaders. We've got to groom them. When you're in the townships, you see what's happening to the kids, the young people. It's actually a pity that nobody cares. And I think it's about time that we take the baton and run with it and make a change towards, for the future, towards winning, all around, economically, ethically, etc., etc.
Herman Mashaba, you've done it once before. What makes you the best person for the job within this trio, do you think?
I think, Jeremy, I'm sure South Africans, in particular people of Johannesburg, are aware that I've got an unfinished business. As a mayor, you serve for 5 years, but because of the political dynamics of our country, this broken system, there's a reason why ActionSA has adopted the primary system. So I've got to complete the job. But when I took over the city of Johannesburg, 170 billion rands of infrastructure, 35 billion rands of the fraud and corruption cases. The city that 27 years ago was one of the modern cities in the world. Today, it's a slum. We started the inner city rejuvenation plan, where by the time I left, 154 buildings were already awarded to the private sector to build affordable accommodation for our people who are living in squalor, in informal settlements, in fact, in broken societies. So we need to rebuild the city. So I've got unfinished business, and through this platform of going back to make sure that I can continue on the journey so that we give people of Johannesburg the dignity.
Now let's mine down a little further if we can. What do you believe, Lincoln Machaba, is the single biggest problem facing the metro right now?
I think it's a lack of a vision. There's no vision right now, especially in the past 2 years. I'll give credit where it's due. Herman Mashaba did a great job when he was the mayor. But since then, there's no vision. We don't know where the city is going. We don't know what the government is really trying to achieve in the city of Johannesburg. So the first thing that we need to do is get the lack of leadership guys out of power in the city of Joburg. So that's the first thing. And I've got 6 talking points that, all throughout my campaign I've been discussing, talking about the finances of the city. If there's no vision, their finances are going to suffer. If there's no vision with economic development, then we're not going to have any jobs for our people. If there's no development planning, then how are we going to... right now, we're actually sitting with a country that was developed by colonialists in the city of Johannesburg. Someone that designed the city right now has been in the grave for over 100 years. Development planning has not happened. We don't know how the city is going to look in the next 100 years. So that's all because there's a lack of leadership. What about environment and infrastructure? What about housing? What about transport? All those 6 things are not mutually exclusive to me, but they all work hand in hand together. And it will need a proper leader with a real vision for the city to actually really put all those things into proper workings.
All right, so the biggest problem facing the metro is lack of vision. Suraya Holt, what's your view?
My view is, Jeremy, let's get the right people in the right jobs. So if you have qualifications, it should be relevant to the position that you're in, because that's where we're falling short. We're having people in positions that should not be there. They don't deserve it. You understand? I'm not saying that they shouldn't be in jobs. They should be in jobs, but they should be somewhere else. So what we've got to do is we've got to get this right. If we get this right, everything else can work. Because people will, if you have an engineer, working with electricity or whatever, and just an example, he knows what he's doing. He's qualified to do that. And that is what we've got to focus on. Because if we don't have the right people in the right positions, we cannot get anything right. The economy suffers, health suffers, security suffers, safety and security suffers. Everything's suffering. At the moment, nothing's working. If everything was just kept the way it is, and, like when we moved over in 1994, then obviously things would have been better. So like he said, there's no vision. There's no planning. There's no plan of action. there's just, people are just going to work for the sake of going to work. They're just being present, but not present in the sense of doing the job.
We are going to get to priority and plan of action in just a moment. So I've heard lack of vision. I've heard bad placement of important personnel. Herman Mashaba, to you, what is the biggest problem facing the Johannesburg Metro right now?
Well, I think, Jeremy, the first thing that we've got to do, and I think this is something that cannot really be done by ActionSA or anyone as a mayor. We have to really get South Africans to go out and vote ANC out. I think that's the first project that I think all of us have to act as one as South Africans to do. Once we've removed the ANC in a democratic dispensation process, we then have to ensure that we put a professional public service, because we cannot really run a city where it is run on a basis of who you know than what you know. We have to really aggressively deal with the removal of cadres. And that's something that I'm committed to. I'm sure South Africans are aware when I took over the last time around, I actually wasted time because I allowed the legislative framework to delay the process. This time around, I'm coming back with experience. We've got to fast track the removal of cadres, put in a professional public service that can deliver for people of the city of Johannesburg. We have to engage Home Affairs to deal with undocumented foreign nationals. We just cannot really live in a city where we've got thousands of people who we don't know who they are and what they're doing in our city. We've got to hold the Home Affairs accountable, because they are the ones responsible for that. We have to hold our criminal justice system accountable. When we have cases of fraud and corruption, there has to really be consequences. We've got to have the rule of law, because one of the core values of ActionSA is the rule of law. Once you can get that, you'll see how you will attract investments in your city, because there's just no way that you can build an economy in an environment of chaos. So the chaos that we see created by the current government, we've got to really deal with it. As I said, we've got to remove them, put a professional public service, deal with consequence management. Consequence management for me is one of those issues that are not negotiable, and also really hold Home Affairs accountable. We cannot really budget for 4.5, 5 million South Africans. We end up with 6, 7 million. We don't know what the number is, and we have a constitutional body like Home Affairs that has to that is failing to execute their constitutional mandate.
All right, let's assume now, so you've given me a sense of what the big problems are. Let's assume that one of you is in the hot seat. You have been elected to the position.
My first priority would be getting together a team of people, preferably very young people, with a good generational mix of those that are experienced, to put together how we would like to see Johannesburg operating.
Might they be in your team?
They could definitely be in my team. It would be such a blessing, you know. Put them together in a team and actually do an audit of the city. What's happening in the city, who's in charge of that, and where we're failing and where we're doing well. That's the first thing I would do. Put together a vision. I'm going back to the vision. Put together a vision of how we see the city looking like in the next 5 to 10 years, or 5 years rather, and then create an action plan, because ultimately we are ActionSA. We are ActionSA.
What's on top of the action plan, do you think?
I think the action plan, I don't want to take a lot out of the words that my colleagues have said, but even the immigration issue is a very big issue that has a direct impact in the broader context and what it just looks like. But also crime, issues like public safety. Crime is a very big issue, so we need to ensure that we are supporting entities such as JMPD to make sure that they can do their jobs. So crime would also be an important agenda item on top of the vision that we have.
Suraya Holt, you arrive at work. You are the new mayor of the Johannesburg Metro. What's your first order of business?
Yes, I think we've got to evaluate what we have and take it from there. Yes, we need advisors. Certainly we do. because we cannot move forward unless we know what we're dealing with. Once we know what we're dealing with, then we can start working out a strategy on, in every aspect of the city, how to deal with it. Because if we don't do that, we'll just be doing what the current government is doing, just going to work for the sake of being at work. We've got to really plan ahead, not for 5 years. I think we should be planning for 10 plus, because I do believe that ActionSA is the way to go, not only for the voter, but for us as people.
I accept what both of you are saying about the audit, the planning, the advisors and all of that, but you will both concede that you would have time against you. You would need to both start delivering on priorities very quickly. What would your first deliverable priority be?
My first would be business, because business is suffering at the moment. They're not being looked after. There's too much red tape. They're really suffering. If you look at the businesses around the south of Joburg, for example, we've got a lot of squatters coming up. I'm not against the squatters. Understand me. But I believe that if you allow people to settle somewhere, you should provide services. Businesses shouldn't suffer because there are shacks close by. Because what's happening at the moment, we're losing business because the people from the shacks are stealing electricity, they're stealing water, they're making life difficult for business because they don't feel safe. They either have to move away or they have to close. So I think if we don't have business, we're going to suffer economically, and that is priority for me right now.
Herman Mashaba, your first priority if you were to be elected mayor of Johannesburg?
I think, Jeremy, I have an unfair advantage because in the sense that I have already 3 years experience of the issues of the city of Johannesburg.
You know where the office is, you know where the parking bays are.
When I took over, I immediately embarked on an exercise to do the infrastructure backlog, and discovered at the time was sitting at about just over 170 billion rands. And if I look at when I left, we had already started moving our infrastructure spend. We moved it, I think, from 53% to 71%, so that we do away with the niceties, the vanity projects that the current government and the previous government were embarking upon. So the first base order of business, and that is why I'm asking residents of the city of Johannesburg, please give us outright majority so that we can expedite service delivery. We accept and understand that given the platform where we've got to work under a coalition, we will. But you must understand it delays service delivery. So first order of the day, in the event we've got outright majority, is to do the lifestyle audit so that I can get rid of cadres. Because for as long as I've got cadres in the system, it'll delay service delivery, because instead of saving society, they served as political masters. So we need a public service and public servants who are going to be there to really serve society. And unfortunately, at the moment, as you are aware, the current government, they will operate on the basis of cadre deployment. We've got to get rid of cadre deployment, and I know lifestyle audit is going to be a very important. So I want to go to the first council meeting with a report asking council to allow me and my government to ensure that we can do lifestyle audits of these people who are earning R1 million but living in a 15 million rands house.
You've also partially preempted the next question, and I'll put this to you, Lincoln. How would you ensure that you work optimally within a coalition if there is not an outright majority?
I think we're living in times where coalition arrangements are most likely going to happen. That's just the political reality. And removing criminal syndicates such as the ANC, to be honest, is not going to be easy. You may have to go through it via coalitions first. And we saw it happening in the city of Joburg when Mr. Machaba was the mayor, and how he was able to successfully do it. But I think how you can successfully manage coalitions is to understand where each party in the political spectrum actually sits. There's those that are sitting on the right, there's those that are sitting on the left. So you need to understand in every decision that you're going to make in government, how it's going to impact them in terms of their ideological standing on the spectrum. So with an understanding of that political ideology that they all come with, you have to find a way to create an arrangement where all of them can moderately find benefit in terms of whatever decisions and outcomes that we are going to be coming through with.
Suraya Holt, I'll put the same question to you. We've had a patchy record in this country of working in coalitions. Some have been more successful than others. How would you do it?
Yes, I think it's very important to understand each party, what they stand for, and start working towards working together simply because our aims are the same. Are we here for the people, or are we here for whatever reason? We must understand that the people are voting us in. Those are the people we need to serve. And for that reason, we've got to make it work. Yes, we have a lot of challenges when it comes to coalitions. Yes, they are. There always will be. I believe that sometimes we've just got to put the politics aside and make the city work.
Not always easy, Herman Mashaba, to do that, to put the politics aside. But you'll also tell us, I imagine, that you've had some success in working within the coalition framework. How would you ensure that there's optimum delivery against that backdrop, should your party find itself in a coalition?
I think I need South Africans to be clear about coalition arrangement and the kind of political system we have in South Africa. We've got three spheres of government: local government, provincial, and national government. At local government, actually, that's where it is easier for coalition arrangement to work, because there are no ideological issues you deal with. You deal with budget to ensure that communities get service, that there's safety, their lights are working, people have got water, and so forth. There are no ideological differences. But I think one thing that I want to make it really very clear to residents of the city of Johannesburg, in the event they put us in a situation where we've got to go into a coalition with the ANC, ActionSA will not go into a coalition with the ANC. Why would not go into a coalition with the ANC? Because we don't take ANC as a political party. We take it as a criminal enterprise. Other parties, we are happy to work with them, whether they come from the right or left, because local government is about service delivery. We look at where the basic needs are, where people are looking for need toilets. We've got over 200 informal settlements. Some of them have been around for 15, 20 years with no toilets, no electrification. I mean, you can imagine a community of Kliptown in 1954, where we signed the Freedom Charter. It had to take a coalition government that was leading to electrify that community. It was not really about political consideration. It's about where the need is. Some communities where they had to take the previous government to court for them to really be given electricity. So, but at the same time, we have this aging infrastructure of our the electricity substations, our water reticulation, our sewer. We need to really upgrade that infrastructure in the more developed communities. So I think we will work with coalition in a coalition arrangement, and I believe the only way it can work is to show respect. Make sure that when you put together your budget, bring all the parties together, you share your budget plans with them, so that when you take it to council for approval, everyone is on board.
I'm Jeremy Maggs, and this is For the Record.